So just going to give a brief review sorry, not yesterday. Yeah, from yesterday's lecture. My goodness, time flies. Yeah, from yesterday's lecture on corticotropes. Okay, and just and generally the adrenocorticotropic hormone from the pituitary. Okay, now the actual cells and adenohypophyses, what it does is it's going to release a large protein. I mentioned this yesterday that will actually cut into ACTH as well as MSH. Okay, so these kind of proteins are basically enzymes. Okay, they're a type of enzyme that will cut. So the word cutting I don't know if you guys would be aware of this word, but it will digest into the hormone. Because remember, hormones are a type of molecule, right? They're a type of chemical molecule. Sometimes they're a protein. Okay, so enzymes are able to break down. Certain enzymes are able to break down, and cutting, specifically the word cut means to digest. Usually, that's what it refers to. Okay, and typically it means it might be inhibiting the hormone because it's breaking them down, or it could enhance the hormone. Okay, but we'll talk more about it as we go along. Okay, but for now, just know that corticotropes will be releasing this type of protein. Okay, now the release of the hormone itself of ACTH, the release of a so over here, release is stimulated. This is in reference to adrenocorticotropic hormone as well as melanocyte stimulating hormone. So these two hormones, okay, this is going to be it's going to be promoted by the hormone secreted by the hypothalamus, and it's a peptide. Okay, it's called corticotropic releasing hormone. Okay, and remember, guys, releasing. Okay, the keyword releasing is usually going to refer to the hypothalamic region. Okay. And also, and I don't know what this is. Let's get rid of that. All right, there we go. Better. Okay. All right. So that's basically, and this actual figure, this cartoon that we see here, is the same thing that we saw earlier. So I'm not going to go over it again. Okay. Now we went over Cushing's syndrome already. Okay, and it causes abnormal fat depositions in certain parts of the body. Okay, and it's due to MSH secretion, too much of it. Okay. And you can see how you get red cheeks. Okay, you get a lot of stretch marks because you're localizing a lot of adipose tissue deposition around the waist area, so it causes stretch mark formation because of an abnormal stretching of the skin in that one area. Okay, and it happens kind of quickly. Okay, and then you could tell the whole profile of the person here on the right hand side, the black and white picture, that you could tell that their extremities, their arms and their legs are all normal, okay? But this guy's thoracic abdominal region, okay, as well as his cheeks are abnormally swollen, so to speak. They're not really swollen, it's just there's a lot more fat deposed in those areas, but relatively to the rest of the body, okay? Now, the thoracic region, more of the thoracic up in where the chest is and where your ribs are, it's a little bit normal, relatively, okay? But just look at those two areas, okay? The abdominal region as well as where your cranial region is, okay? Especially the cheeks, as well as the neck. Okay, if you look at the neck of this person, it's pretty it's a lot larger compared, it's a lot thicker compared to the rest of the body. Okay? That's all I want you guys to know for this. Yeah, there's a problem with that. Sabrina, it's not only MSH. I should also add here, it's just generally corticotrophs in general. Any types of corticotrophs, those kind of hormones, that class of hormones, when you have too much production of those, it could lead to Cushing's syndrome. Okay, but yeah, yeah, you're welcome. I thought I answered that question yesterday. Maybe I did answer that question yesterday, I think, but it's okay. It's all right. Okay. All right. So, anyways, now let's look at this slide. This is a new slide. We didn't look at this yesterday, but it's okay. Okay. So we're gonna look at more to how the adrenocorticotropic hormones stimulate the adrenal cortex. Okay. So let's look at the adrenal gland. Okay. And I want to zoom in a little bit, maybe. Can you guys see the pictures clearly? Is that clear enough, or do you want me to zoom in more? Is that zoomed in enough? Is that clear enough, you guys, so I could start circling different areas of it? Ooh, oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Better. That ringtone was going right through my ear. It was going right in through one ear and out the other. Okay, it's good. All right, great. All right. Anyways, all right. So let's look at the adrenal, like the different areas of the adrenal gland and what it secretes exactly. Okay. And remember, so the adrenal cortex itself, which is going to be the midsection of your adrenal gland is the adrenal cortex. And this is the actual area where the ACTH is going to stimulate. Okay. And in this, you have three areas. You have the zona reticularis, which is at the very top. Okay. Over here. And then you have the zona fasciculata, which is the midsection of it. And you can tell by how it gets a little bit less dense. It's a little bit, the coloring is a little bit lighter, right? And when you go lower towards the bottom end, you have the zona glomerulosa. Okay. Now, those three compartments altogether are the adrenal cortex. Each of those layers, the sections, will have to do with different type of hormone. Okay. So the zona reticularis, okay, it has to do with secreting sex hormones, so sex-related hormones. Okay. The zona fasciculata is going to have to do with secreting glucocorticoids, and we're going to go through them. Okay. And zona glomerulosa has to do with aldosterone. Okay. Now, also, you have something called mineralocorticoids, okay? That is also secreted. That's going to be present in the adrenal cortex, specifically in the zona glomerulosa, okay? Towards that. It's kind of, let me actually delete this so you can see clearly. It's kind of busy. So the mineralocorticoids, it's going to be, let me get this thing to go away. It's right over here, okay? Like this, from this area, from so the zona glomerulosa approximately is where you're going to see this. Okay. Now, like I said before, okay, the adrenal cortex will be secreting different hormones as well as steroids. Remember, aldosterone itself is a steroid. Okay. Like for example, estrogen, right? Testosterone, aldosterone. These are type of steroids. Okay. So that's why you can say that the adrenal cortex has to do with secreting steroids. Okay. Now, let's talk about the adrenal medulla, okay? The adrenal medulla is not going to have anything to do with ACTH right now, okay? But it's going to have to do with secreting catecholamines, okay? And that's a class of hormones that we'll talk about shortly, okay? So it's going to be the adrenal medulla, okay? Now you can see how important this gland is, right? The adrenal gland collectively, it regulates several important classes of hormones. Okay, you got your catecholamines, your sex hormones, glucocorticoids, some steroids such as aldosterone, and some mineralocorticoids. Okay, so from this figure, guys, from this particular slide, that's all you need to know. I'm not going to go into any more detail as far as this. Okay, it just basically you tell me something's coming from. Okay, for example, I can ask you, where are glucocorticoids secreted from? Okay, well, it's secreted from the zona vesiculata of the adrenal gland, specifically adrenal cortex. Now, the details of this, I really want you guys to know every detail of this. Okay, especially since this is an open book test. Okay, as well as the quiz, which I will be uploading pretty soon. The quiz, by the way, I forgot to mention. I mentioned the other day, but there is a quiz this week. Okay, it's gonna be a take-home open notes quiz, and I'm probably gonna give you until the end of Easter break on like Monday or something to complete it. Okay, it's gonna be open notes. There won't be any time limit. Okay, and I'll allow for unlimited attempts because there won't be. I don't believe there's gonna be multiple choice on it. I don't remember. I don't know if I have a few versions of it. I don't know. I haven't decided which one to use. But you should know this in great detail. Okay, guys? Really. Is everyone clear on this? It's pretty simple, this slide. It's not difficult. So now it's going to be a lot of more dry stuff, okay? Now, this is going to tell you about the various effects your ACTH has, okay? And let's talk about again what exactly it's going to be secreting, okay? Now remember, ACTH is going to be acting on your adrenal cortex. So that means, in other words, it's going to be acting on the adrenal gland, specifically in the cortex region of the adrenal gland, okay? So that means that ACTH has to travel to the adrenal gland, okay? Guys, how do hormones travel? What's their method of traveling between areas of the body? Yeah, your blood vessels, right? So yeah, your blood. So anyway, so the activation of your adrenal cortex causes the release of several types of hormones, and we kind of went over them already, okay? First type is glucocorticoids, okay? And this is typically in the zona fasciculata, okay? And the type of glucocorticoids is cortisol, and cortisol is a hyperglycemic hormone, okay? Then you have mineralocorticoids, which is from the zona reticularis, okay? And the zona reticularis is going to have the aldosterone, okay? So aldosterone is a type of mineralocorticoid, okay? Cortisol is a type of glucocorticoid, okay? So don't get confused with the different coids. There's a lot of, we're using that word a lot, okay? Now, aldosterone is going to be really important for conserving water and salt in the body, specifically sodium, okay? Then you have androgens, such as sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, right? Now, estrogen and estrogen will be in small quantities, okay? And this will be from the zona reticularis. So guys, remember, just a little bit quick question, so you guys are keeping up, okay? Is the zona reticularis more superficial or more deep when you're going into the adrenal gland? The zona reticularis, is it more superficial or deep? And I'll go back to the slide as soon as you guys answer it or try to answer it. Zona reticularis, is it deep? Oh, it is superficial. The deep one is the deepest is glomerulosa, then the midsection is fasciculata, okay? Let me see something here. Did I make a boo-boo here? Okay, there's some, okay. I think the arrow here is kind of off. All right, there we go, better. All right. No, so the fasciculata is more superficial, okay? Reticularis is going to be reticularis is more superficial, and fasciculata is the midsection, okay? But know these three classes, okay, guys? Now, everyone's kind of more or less knows what testosterone does and what estrogen do, okay? That's, depending on your sex. For example, male are going to be secreting, tend to, normally we secrete a lot more testosterone. We do secrete some estrogen too, not much, but there is some estrogen, but usually most of the secretion of estrogen in males are inhibited, okay? In females, you're gonna have typically a lot more estrogen being secreted as opposed to testosterone, okay? But this is all regulated by your androgens, okay? That's a class of hormones, okay? That's part of, and it's all regulated. Collectively, all of these are regulated by your ACTH, okay? Now let's talk about more about mineralocorticoids, okay? Aldosterone for the adrenal cortex. Now remember, aldosterone has to do with retained water and sodium, okay? Now, what exactly causes the push, the stimulus for the release of this hormone into our blood, okay? Well, for one, of course, if you have higher amounts of ACTH secretion, it's going to activate the adrenal cortex, and it's going to activate the adrenal cortex's ability to synthesize these various hormones, and that's what happened. Okay, if you have a high amount of potassium in the blood, is another factor. Okay, alternatively, if you have a decreased pH, it's going to promote release. Okay, because remember when pH drops, okay, you want to make sure you want to retain more salts. Okay, more salts and more water, because if you do that, it's going to it's going to try to reestablish homeostasis as far as the pH. Okay, because remember when you're looking at our renal system, okay, one of the functions of reabsorbing the rate of reabsorbing minerals in water is in reference to the pH, right? If you have too low a pH, you're going to start to reabsorb more water and more salts to try and neutralize it. Okay, try to bring back up our blood pH level to normal. Okay, now what are some of the effects? Okay, like I said before, your renal system is going to be increasing the reabsorption of sodium. Okay, so that means sodium conservation. Okay, now the reason why you retain sodium is because it's going to effectively uh, increase the water retention. Okay, because remember, sodium establishes the movement of sodium establishes the movement of water. If you remember, okay, when you talk about water retention as well as glucose, right? It all follows sodium. If you remember, it follows sodium from the lumen of the kidneys back into the interstitial fluid and then back into your blood vessel. Do you guys remember that slide? How everything kind of follows sodium, kind of that one slide back in the previous chapter. Do you guys recall that? Yeah. So that's the reason why this happens. Okay. Then it promotes the loss of potassium as well as protons, and this is going to be by excretion in urine. Okay. Now remember, protons, the amount of protons we have is going to be directly correlate. I'm sorry, indirectly relevant to the pH level. So the higher the proton concentration is, the lower the pH, meaning the more acidic it gets. Okay, the less protons you have, the higher the pH it is, and the more basic or more alkaline your that whatever solution is. Okay, and of course this results in the regulation of the pH in the potassium level. Okay, now let's talk about glucocorticoids, okay? Now, glucocorticoids is another one. I mean, we went over it already, and specifically cortisol, okay? So cortisol is part of that class. Oops, oopsie daisy. Let's close this a little bit more. Just, there we go, better. Okay, okay. So remember, glucocorticoids is a class, and one of them is cortisol, okay? And cortisol is going to be secreted from the adrenal cortex under high amounts of ACTH amount, okay? So what's stimulus for release? So like I said, when you have increased amount of ACTH secretion, it's going to affect that, as well as low amounts of glucose in the blood, okay? So of course, guys, if we say that a lower amount of glucose concentration in blood is going to prompt the release of cortisol, then you could just just infer from that cortisol is going to have the opposite effect. That meaning that it's going to want to increase the sugar levels in our blood, right? So, like I said before, it's a hyperglycemic hormone, meaning that hyperglycemic means that it's going to want to increase your sugar, okay? Increase your blood sugar level, okay? Now, it also decreases immune response, okay? So that's why, and you could, I keep bringing it up over and over again. You can imagine that, these different hormones have a lot of functions, especially have many hormones, and they will have at least one or two functions. You could tell how fine regulation of these is super important to maintain our health, right? Because if you have any kind of mutation, genetic disease, or maybe you contracted some kind of bacterial infection that results in the inhibition of some kind of hormones, they block some kind of mechanism, and it just completely throws off your entire physiological system because everything is fine-tuned, okay? So if you have, for example, guys, okay, knowing that cortisol decreases your immune response, okay? And it also acts with epinephrine in the recovery from an injury produced by inflammatory agents, okay? Knowing this, so knowing, especially, oh, yeah, that happens. Knowing that it decreases your immune response, okay? Do you guys think it's a bad thing or a good thing if we have too much cortisol being produced? And give me a possible reason why for your answer. Is it bad or good to have too much secretion? Yeah. Yeah. No, Caroline, that's correct. Yeah. It's going to slow, and like I said, it's decrease your immune response. So it's slow. First of all, it slows down the possibly your innate immune response. More so, you're talking about the macrophages maybe and some dendrocytes. Sorry, not dendrocytes, dendritic cells. But more importantly, B and T cells. Okay, it will interfere. It'll slow down the response. And remember, of the two immune systems, the two components of the immune system, the adaptive immune system is your strongest one. It's the most lethal one towards microbes, viruses, some parasites. This is the big one, okay? Your your innate immune system, such as your skin, macrophages, dendritic cells, those things, they're very important from keeping us safe from just everyday bacteria that don't normally affect us. They're more like the opportunistic ones that don't commonly infect us. But you know, the immune response is more in reference to adaptive. Now, of course, it acts with epinephrine, okay, and they recover from an injury produced by inflammatory agents, okay, and secretion increases could be a response to stress. Okay, so that means stress is going to be increasing secretion. Okay, in a positive feedback loop. So that means the more stressed out you are, the more of this cortisol you're going to be producing. Okay, so the cortisol itself, this whole the actual the mental stress like disorder when when you're stressed out physiologically and mentally, it will become a positive feedback loop to promote further secretion of cortisol. Okay, so that's why to be stressed out all the time is bad for you. Okay, it has a pretty negative effect on your body overall over time. Okay, is everyone clear on this? It's pretty straightforward so far. I mean, the most complicated it got was the me telling you the order of secretions, right? You always start from the hypothalamus, then you go to your pituitary gland, and then you go to the next gland or the next whatever its affects, right? So, uh, so anyways, we'll go over that maybe again. So let's talk about gonadocorticoids, okay? Now, gonads, okay? Gonadocorticoids. What does gonads refer to, guys? Does anyone know what gonads are? I mean, if the picture didn't give it away already, then uh, yeah, it's your sex. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Uh, it's your sex glands. Now, what's the stimulus for release? Okay, and what causes release into blood? Okay, of course, like I said, it is going to be consistent with what ACTH regulates. Okay, high levels of ACTH is going to be the stimulus for release. Okay, and why is this? Why is gonadotropins, this class of hormones, why is it so important? Well, development of fetal testes, for example, it would be testosterone in men specifically. Okay, development of secondary sexual characteristics. So this is going to be more in puberty. Okay, so this is really important during puberty in both a female and a male. Okay, now I'm talking about males for now. Okay, because for females, when you undergo puberty, your voice doesn't change dramatically like men do. Uh, when for example, boys and girls, they have the same kind of high pitched voice, more or less. Uh, but we have deepening of voice, we have more facial and pubic hair growing, right? And this would be because of testosterone, all right, specifically. Okay, remember, testosterone is be the primary cause of secondary sexual characteristics in a male. Estrogen will be for female. Okay, now this is going to have a lot to do with maintenance of estrogen effects after menopause. So, when you pass the age of 40, for example, right? These things happen. All right. Now, let's talk about a disease, and adrenogenital syndrome, so AGS. Okay. Now, this this particular person here is genetically a female, okay? However, this female developed a penis during the first trimester as a result of exposure to this to testosterone from the mother's adrenal cortex, okay? So that means that for some reason, the mother was secreting too much testosterone and it penetrated through the placenta, maybe. Okay, it went through it penetrated into the bloodstream. It went through the placental barrier because it's in your bloodstream. Okay, and this female, the baby girl that's growing in the womb, was subjected to too much testosterone, and it caused her, her clitoris basically to grow into a penis instead. Okay, but she's still genetically a female. Okay. And mind you guys, you know, these kind of syndromes, these kind of genetic uh, diseases, syndromes, those are very rare, okay? They don't happen often. And God, thank God it doesn't, right? Because, the thing is, the problem with a lot of these different types of genetic disease, they they have other implications in your life, right? Sometimes you won't live a full life, right? You have maybe other complications that rise up as you get older, and they're serious conditions, okay? For example, a lot of these sex organ related or sex gland related genetic disorders will leave you sterile, okay? So that means you can't reproduce, you can't make children, among other things, okay? Make sense, guys? So, guys, remember, so just as a review, a quick review, gonadotropins, let me see if I can, gonadotropins, glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids are all regulated by the ACTH. They're all going to be secreted from the adrenal cortex, okay? All of these classes are from the adrenal cortex, okay? And this is the area of the adrenal cortex you got to focus on, okay? And let me see back here quickly again. Um, all right. I think that's basically it. That's all I want you guys to know. Is there any questions you guys have for me for this particular chapter? Is it pretty straightforward, guys? It's easy, right? I mean, compared to the other material, this is very easy. This test and the next test are going to be the easiest tests you'll have. Um, oh, with the exception of the renal system. The renal system itself is kind of difficult, but this is easy. Um, okay, so guys, just a little pop quiz. What is called the master gland? What is the master gland? Yes, the pituitary gland. Now, what regulates the pituitary gland? Like the pituitary gland is going to secrete it's going to produce different hormones, okay? Those hormones, what are those hormones regulated by for secretion? Yeah, the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is going to be synthesizing types of hormones and they're usually categorized by the name releasing hormone. So let's say X, Y, and Z releasing hormone, okay? That's going to be in reference to the hypothalamus, okay? And what those hormones do, they're going to either they could be inhibitory, so they could be releasing or inhibitory. There's two types of them, okay? But usually they're releasing, okay? We're going to talk about releasing, okay? That's going to be helpful for pushing forward secretion of things like growth hormones, okay? All right. ACTH, for example, is another one, okay? So if you go back over here, let's talk about ACTH quickly, okay? ACTH, okay, adrenocorticotropic hormone, all right? This is going to be only secreted from the pituitary gland if and only if you have corticotropic releasing hormone present from the hypothalamus. Okay? All right, guys? And make sure you understand the adeno versus the neurohypophyses. So, guys, what side of the pituitary gland is the neurohypophyses? Is it the posterior or anterior the pituitary? And actually, I just so happened to be in this in the slide. I would show you this. Yeah, the posterior. Yeah, the posterior, definitely. And then, of course, anterior will be your adenohypophyses. Okay. Um, that's basically it, guys, for this chapter. And that's it for this week, because this week I was only going to do this chapter this week. Next week is going to be our, I think it's more sexual, it's going to be sexual reproduction next week, I believe, when we got back from Easter. So this is it, guys. Any questions before we leave for the weekend? Okay. Oh, you're welcome, guys. And please, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you email me because um, you're gonna be studying these slides, and I know these slides are very concise and to the point, as you can imagine, like how short these slideshows are. But for me especially, that I could derive many questions from a single slide. So make sure that, for example, when you're looking at, let's say this one here, okay? Let's say we're looking at this slide here, okay? I could ask you several questions from this. For example, okay, what's what does negative feedback mean? Okay, does it target? What happens when the thyroid hormone inhibits your pituitary? What happens when it inhibits your hypothalamus instead? Okay, you got to tell me these different things. I could derive several questions from these. Okay, and then of course a question like this that you see here, the blood test. Okay, if you have high levels of so and so, where could a tumor be found? Now, the whole key thing to know here is you have to know where these hormones are being secreted from, okay? If you know the origin of secretion for these hormones, you go backwards and find out where the most likely area of the tumor is, okay? Uh, I'm gonna upload it this week, I think, Sherelle. Actually, I could just double check. Let me double check for you guys again. I'm sorry, I apologize. There's so many things going on. Same thing with you guys, right? There's a lot of things going on. And I'm not talking about class itself. I'm just talking about life. Uh, that's the thing, Carolina. I haven't decided if I'm going to include both or just one. Uh, Let me just double check quickly. Let me just check with. I might just put both because they're pretty short chapters, and not only that, it will help you get prepared anyways. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm probably gonna put both. But let's see when exactly I'm going to give it to you guys. Let's take a look here. Okay, so according to the syllabus, you're supposed to have a quiz this week. So I'll upload it maybe tomorrow, and I'll give you till Monday to complete it. Okay, sounds fair enough, guys? And it's going to be on both chapters. Okay, and I'll give you unlimited time to finish them. It's going to be more like a homework. I told you guys before that the quizzes are going to be more homework like homework kind of style because it's take home and it's open notes. So might as well do it that way and have you guys invest more time into actually looking up answers potentially and just learning more about the topic, right? And making sure you know it really well. And this will help you for the exam. For the exam, as you guys know, it will be timed instead. So this will help you kind of to, know everything at the tip of your tongue, right? You're able to say everything, know everything quickly. All right, guys. So that's it. All right. So I'll see you on Monday. And again, guys, it's another reminder for both the homework assignments are all uploaded online, as well as your the essays. Okay, for those of you who haven't done it yet. All right, everyone. So I'll see you next week, and have a great Easter.